Welcome everyone, this is David Arhan. Today's video is a refutation of Richard Dawkins and his argument against divine simplicity in God. So, Richard Dawkins recently posted a clip on Twitter from a podcast that he was on where he made this argument against divine simplicity in God. So take a look.
Richard Swinburne is saying that God is simple because he's a single entity.
Yeah.
How can he be a single entity if he's simultaneously controlling the universe, every particle in the universe? He's forgiving our sins. He's giving us free will. He's deciding whether or not you'll die or not on a certain day. Such a thing is not a single, simple entity. It's a highly complicated, mammoth, great, big, fat entity. In order to do the things that God is supposed to be doing, he cannot be simple. He's an entity of subjective consciousness. He thinks about things. He has free will. He has the power to influence anything in the world that he wants to do. He even does the things that the Christians believe and all the other religions believe. How can you possibly say that such an entity is a single, simple entity?
So, the basic summary of his argument is that God is not one, nor is he simple, because he does many different things and has many aspects or properties of himself. Now, before I respond, I want to make a key note that the term simplicity does not mean easy to understand. So if you have this idea, that's not what we mean by simplicity. That's not what Swinburne means by simplicity. If Dawkins thinks this is what he meant, then Dawkins is proving that he is philosophically inept. But I don't think that's what Dawkins means. What it means, what the term simplicity means in this context, is being without parts, having no parts, so not being composite. So by saying God is simple, again, Swinburne is saying that God is not made of parts, but according to Dawkins, God must be made of parts, or God must have parts. So Dawkins' claim about God not being one or single, so there's two parts of his argument. One part is that he's saying that God is not one, and then the other part is he's saying that God is not simple. So the argument about God not being one because he does many different things and is a big fat entity in his own words is a terrible, terrible, terrible argument. It is such a bad argument that even a preschooler can understand and grasp how bad this argument is. Because there are many singular things in the world that does a multitude of different things. So let's use Dawkins' eye as an example. Dawkins' eye can see people. It can see the building he's in. It can see the various different chairs, including the one that he is sitting on while he is making this horrible argument. And yet, we say that, Dawkins, this particular eye, one of the eyes of Dawkins, that's one single eye. But according to Dawkins, according to his argument, it should be the case that Dawkins has as many eyes as the things that he sees. Now, this is obviously nonsensical, but it drives the point home that Dawkins' point, that Dawkins' logic, his logic and his argument makes absolutely no sense. So it is very clear that God is one, while he still does many different things simultaneously. The second part of his argument is that God is not simple, is also likewise wrong. The mainstream Western Christian response is that God does not have any distinctions, which is what makes him simple, and that it seems that he does different things, or that there are distinctions, because of created effects. Now, while I don't endorse this argument, as Orthodox Christians, we don't endorse this kind of an argument, it is, at least this still answers the question. Now, as Orthodox Christians, we will argue that it is indeed true that God does many different things. It is indeed true that God has distinct properties. However, God is still simple because he is not a physical being composed of different substances. So he's not composed of various different physical substances, and he is beyond all physicality. And the key point here is composition is a feature of the physical world, and God is beyond all physicality, which means that God will be simple. Moreover, God's properties like his goodness, his justice, his providence, etc., they're all interrelated. So even though there are different properties or aspects of God, they're still interrelated. So for instance, God's justice is also good, and so is his providence. And God's justice is provident, and so is his goodness, and vice versa, right? So you get the point. There's interrelation between the various different aspects or properties or activities or energies, as we call in the Orthodox theology. There is interrelatedness. And if God was made of parts, then where God's goodness is, there won't be justice, which doesn't really make sense conceptually speaking. And even if you're an atheist who doesn't believe in God, if you are going to criticize the idea of God, then you should at least know what it is that you're critiquing. It is very clear from this clip that Dawkins' argument betrays his utter lack of proper philosophical knowledge of basic Christian theology. And if you're going to be this great scientific philosophical figure that's refuting Christianity, then at least you can do is know the basics. But it's very clear again that Dawkins does not know the basics. And that's the main refutation that I would like to give in this video. So thank you for watching. If you like this, make sure to click like. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this video. Show this to your friend if you think this is beneficial. And I will see all of you in the next video. And also thank you to the Patreon Financiers. The link to Patreon will be in the description below. And the shoutouts will also be in the link. Will also be in the description below. Not a link, but it will be in the description below as well. Thank you for watching this, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye, and stay safe.